The mainstream media's portrayal of global warming has sparked intense debate and controversy in recent years. While the issue of climate change is a pressing concern that requires immediate attention and action, some argue that the media's narrative is being used to oppress Christians. This claim may seem far-fetched at first, but a closer examination of the media's tactics and language reveals a more nuanced and complex issue. One of the primary ways the media allegedly uses global warming to oppress Christians is by labeling them as climate deniers or science skeptics. This terminology is often used to imply that Christians are ignorant, uninformed, or even maliciously opposed to scientific facts. However, this label is not only inaccurate but also misleading. Many Christians accept the reality of climate change and are actively working to address its causes and consequences. Nevertheless, the media's blanket labeling of Christians as climate deniers perpetuates a negative stereotype and creates a sense of us versus them mentality. The media's emphasis on the supposed conflict between science and faith is another way it allegedly used global warming to oppress Christians. By pitting science against religion, the media creates a false dichotomy that implies Christians must choose between their faith and their commitment to scientific facts. This narrative is not only misleading but also damaging, as it reinforces the notion that Christians are inherently anti-science or anti-intellectual. In reality, many Christians are deeply committed to scientific inquiry and exploration, and see no inherent conflict between their faith and the pursuit of knowledge. Furthermore, the media's coverage of global warming often neglects the moral and spiritual dimensions of the issue. While climate change is undoubtedly a scientific and technical problem, it is also a deeply moral and spiritual one. The Bible teaches Christians to be good stewards of the earth and to care for creation, and many Christians see climate change as a pressing moral issue that requires a response of compassion, justice, and love. However, the media's focus on the technical and scientific aspects of climate change often overlooks these moral and spiritual dimensions, leaving Christians feeling marginalized and ignored. Another way the media allegedly uses global warming to oppress Christians is by promoting a secular and materialistic worldview that excludes spiritual perspectives. The media's emphasis on the role of human activity in causing climate change is often accompanied by a narrative that implies humans are the sole cause of the problem and that technology and science are the only solutions. This narrative leaves little room for a spiritual perspective or a sense of human limitation and vulnerability. Christians who believe in a sovereign God who is intimately involved in the world may find themselves at odds with this worldview, which can lead to feelings of exclusion and marginalization. Finally, the media's silence on the topic of climate change and Christianity is also noteworthy. While the media is quick to highlight the views of secular environmentalists and scientists, they often neglect to feature the perspectives of Christian leaders and thinkers who are working on climate change issues. This silence perpetuates the notion that Christians are not engaged on the issue of climate change and reinforces the stereotype that Christians are anti-science or anti-environmental. In conclusion, the mainstream media's portrayal of global warming has been used to oppress Christians in several ways. By labeling Christians as climate deniers and assessing the supposed conflict between science and faith, neglecting the moral and spiritual dimensions of the issue, promoting a secular and materialistic worldview, and silencing Christian perspectives, the media perpetuates a narrative that excludes and marginalizes Christians. However, it is essential to recognize that Christians are not inherently opposed to science or the environment, and that many are actively working to address the causes and consequences of climate change. By promoting a more nuanced and inclusive narrative, the media can help to create a more constructive and respectful dialogue about climate change, one that values the perspectives and contributions of Christians and people of all faiths.